Not the only up for the first 2 to 4 weeks, probably. The downs were falling when I'm trying to walk. Couldn't lift stuff, even with my strong side, I couldn't do it because I'd lose my balance. I may not have fell, but I'd lost my balance. I had a real difficult time cooking because you need two hands to cook. So luckily I got into some physical therapy right away up there. And they taught me some skills to be able to cook and clean and take care of myself. So that emotionally was very hard because I felt like, I don't know how to describe it, Brandon. I felt useless. And it was extremely depressing. Luckily, when I got to Colorado Springs, I was smart enough and had my daughter's assistance in finding some mental health counseling. Because it has, in my recovery, become bad enough that I've had some very dark moments, twice. And it was very difficult. I got through them because I saw my grandchildren's pictures on the wall. Because it was that hard to get myself back physically. And there was mental issues too. Or not mental, but brain issues. I had memory problems. I had problems with sleeping because I couldn't get in a comfortable position because the whole left side was numb. And that caused more problems on its own, just mental problems as well. And that didn't help the depression. There was very little motivation until, my grandkids. They were my motivation. And my kids calling me all the time. I mean, my daughters and son were incredible, just checking in with me. Well, I think one of the things I found out earlier on is I had to find people, not only my children and grandchildren, but I had to find people that understood stroke, that had strokes. So luckily I got into a medical center that actually went to a day center twice a week, and there was other people there with strokes, and we talked about stuff. The support, if I didn't have that support, if I didn't have my children and grandchildren, those dark moments I refer to, I wouldn't be here. So I've learned over the years, the more and more support I can find, the better I'm going to be. Because I have to tell you, after 6 years of recovery that were pretty boring, pretty lackluster, and very slow, I've had a remarkable recovery in the last year and a half. I mean, I no longer use a walker, no longer use a cane, I no longer use a foot brace or an ankle foot orthotic. I'm actually, within the last 6 months, maybe 8 months, I'm actually running on a water treadmill. In the last 3 months, I started running on a land treadmill. So, I mean, just getting involved with other people, hearing their stories made me understand and start to think. When I moved up to Bend, Oregon, where I am now, I moved up partly because of job, mostly because of my son and his 3 of my 11 grandchildren. Up here, I ran into Stroke Awareness Oregon. And at Stroke Awareness Oregon, I found a lot of people like me, a lot of people with the frustrations, a lot of people with the bad recoveries and good recoveries. But what I found was there is hope in Stroke Awareness Oregon and the support groups and reaching out. And I found out the only dumb question was the one I didn't ask. So I was asking all the questions. I mentioned the job. The job got me physically better. I was doing yard work. I was painting lines on a pavement at the storage center. I was hauling stuff. I mean, it physically made me stronger. The work in the office as the administrator made my brain work better. I started to relearn things that I had lost. That was in the first 6 years. It's amazing how much I forgot. You know, I used to be able to play with coding and stuff. I knew nothing about it. Still don't. Still don't. But I've learned how to reuse all my software that I was so good at. I've reused. I know how to fix my own hardware again. You know, all that kind of stuff I've relearned because I've been involved and I didn't quit. And that's the big thing for most of the people I've seen that have the most difficult time. Quit. You know, you just have to have confidence in yourself. And for me, it was, don't stop what you normally have done. You know, hey, maybe slower, maybe harder, but I never stopped doing what I've always done. Early on, I was alone, so that I wasn't learning anything other than what I did research online and physical therapy. I became involved with a mental health counselor. I had a social worker. I had all those kind of things. I think what I've learned over time, you said something once to me before about you see it in a stroke survivor's eyes. Once you find people that have worked with support, worked hard at their recovery, and not just accepted it. You know, you said something about humbling. I was childlike for the first 2 years. It was very humbling. After that, you start getting involved with some good people in counseling, good people in therapy, physical, occupational, whatever. I started doing more exercise, those kind of things. You learn from others. And if you don't know others, I found others. I didn't know others, so I found them. You know, the day center was great. There was all kinds of people there. Which ones were strokes? Those are the ones I went to. And those are the people we helped each other. So, I mean, it's very difficult. It's embarrassing to have or it was for me anyway, it's embarrassing for me to have the noticeable disability, like dragging my leg, not being able to lift my arm, my memory losses, my speech losses. That's very humbling. But once you start listening to others, you realize, hey, I can get better. You know, the doctor that told me this is as good as it's going to get, he was a liar. He didn't know what he was talking about. You know, I've had physical therapists, mental health counselors, and other survivors that have told me, no, it's never as good as it gets unless you give up. And that's exactly what I didn't do. So it made my life better. And today I'm ecstatic in my life. I mean, I've lost my temper. I always had a really bad temper. I've lost that. I'm a lot more jovial than I used to be, which I was pretty good at before, but now I'm happy. You know, things. My daughter just recently told me when I went to Arizona, I told you about the trip. I was sitting there with my two daughters, and they were like, Dad, I can't believe how you are. And I said, yeah, I've gotten better. And they said, Dad, you're better than you were before the stroke. And hearing things like that from your children and other stroke survivors, oh my God, it just means the world to me. I mean, I know, I hope this doesn't sound self-centered, but I meet with people from Stroke Awareness. I go to a couple offices where they are, and I always feel like a celebrity when I walk in because, you know, they give me so much encouragement and so much support that makes my life so much easier. And that's why I want to give it away. I can't keep it if I don't give it away. You know, I can't tell you a small percentage, what percentage of people don't work as hard as I did, but I suspect most all survivors work as hard as I did. But stroke is the leading number one cause of disability in the United States. And I think it's even in the world. I can't remember exactly, but I know it's the number one disability in the United States. So there's a lot out there that since it's grown so much, I can't remember the exact number, but it's 800,000 strokes a year. I think because it's grown so much, there's more material available and more resources available. I think one of the things that the stroke community or medical community is getting is more information to pass on. Unfortunately, it's like I told you before, doctors are trying to save people's lives, not necessarily worry about just you. So once your life is saved, they have to move on, because there's other people that may be way worse. So I don't know if it's as much a lack of information or just a lack of time for them to provide us the information. And there are people out there that can do that for us. For example, Stroke Awareness Oregon has put together a discharge packet for hospitals for new patients that are leaving the hospital after stroke. One of the things I'm doing is myself and a few other stroke survivors are putting together frequently asked questions, 30 questions in 30 days. This is what's going to happen. This is how it's going to happen. This is what you can do. This is where you can go. Those kind of things. That's a lot of information that hasn't been out there, not in writing, maybe in person from a lot of people. But we want to get it all documented and out to people. That's the reason for Stroke Awareness Oregon and everything we do there. And a reason I do what I do on the side. I'm proud to talk about what I've accomplished in the last year. A year ago, a friend of mine, Jim, said, "Your voice could put me to sleep," when I met him. And I didn't know whether to take it as a compliment. He says, "No, seriously, you could be on the radio. That's a great voice." I said, "Okay." And then we started talking more, and he came up with an idea for a radio server for an internet cloud-based radio station. So learning what I did, and as I said before, I can't keep it unless I give it away, I figured I need to start giving away what these other people have given me. So everything I've learned has been put into Stroke Warrior Radio. Stroke Warrior Radio is shows that are interviews from stroke survivors. It's interviews with physical therapists, occupational therapists, mental health people, stroke support groups, life coaching, meditation people. I mean, I'm trying to cover the most broad spectrum of all the stuff that everybody needs. I want to be the Google search, strike that. I want to be the search engine for stroke survivors. And then with Stroke Warrior Radio, they've got 12 hours of daily programming with all kinds of educational, motivational, and support shows that can help them get through their stroke. And I hope that it provides hope. I didn't have a lot of hope in 6 years. I found it a year later, and now in the last year, I'm sharing a lot more. So that's one of the reasons that we started Stroke Warrior Radio.
What kind of feedback are you getting so far?
I'm getting pretty good feedback. It's frankly, I haven't got great skills yet on producing the shows. I don't know if that's what you call it, but I haven't got great skills on it. But the shows are there. A lot of them rotate. I'm building more shows. We're doing a lot more to develop more shows. I mean, for example, we've got a new show, Space Between, which our caregiver leader and a lady who had a stroke 22 years ago, or when she was 22, is